bGrid is the final smart building solution you will ever need. But how does it work? A network of bGrid nodes senses everything that happens in the building and enables fast, accurate positioning of people and assets. The sensor's network consists of a wireless grid of bGrid nodes which will be built in your smart building. The bGrid nodes communicate wirelessly via Bluetooth Low Energy and enable positioning of individuals and assets, as well as sensing temperature, light, humidity, CO2, and presence. The bGrid Smart Building solution is open enough to connect and communicate with everyone in your building, from the lighting and climate system to the coffee machines, and even people through their smart devices. bGrid does not stop here. It also enables controlling light, climate, blinds, and many other things based on the collected and analyzed data. Ready to take the next step? The bGrid Smart Building Solution.
So thank you all for joining this evening, and thank you CIBSE and Mohammed for asking bGrid here and giving us the opportunity to present. We played a brief introduction movie to what it is that bGrid does while you were waiting for everyone to join. I have a presentation prepared where I will talk you through what it is that bGrid does, what we do in some technical detail as well. Then some more detail on the data that we have and how we analyze that and how we use machine learning to then also create other use cases and valuable insights for our clients. And then finally, I will wrap up with the Microsoft case and very briefly also some other cases. Through the chat, there is the opportunity for you to ask questions, which Mohammed will moderate at the end of the session. The presentation will last for around 40 minutes, and then there will be 15 to 20 minutes at the end for questions. Right. So very briefly first about our firm. We started bGrid 5 years ago. Some of the people, like myself, were involved in this The Edge project in Amsterdam, which shows on the background. And it sparked the idea for bGrid. The Edge Olympic, another project from the same company, Edge Technologies, was then one of our first big projects that we developed, that we delivered. We now have 30 buildings live with our system, over 30,000 devices spread across that space with over 300 million operating hours over those devices. So, there is a substantial base of proven technology that is underneath the bGrid product now. But let us start with why we believe smart building is relevant, as it is quite a broad definition, a broad term, but also because sharing with you why we think this is relevant also helps explain why we have structured the bGrid technology the way we have. One of the reasons why smart buildings are relevant is because, as we say, the world needs better buildings. The Leesman Index is a good example for that. You may be familiar with them. They do quite extensive research over half a million employees. They've asked a list of questions, and out of that come a lot of different topics in this list to the right. It's not about the details here, but it's about that there are a lot of topics where, unfortunately, people find a lot of building related topics very important, but also are not very satisfied with them. So there can be the control of temperature, the availability of meeting rooms, those kind of things. And with smart building technology and bGrid specifically, we can make a difference here. But we also see this when we look at the research from CBRE last year, 2019, where they've reviewed almost 200 different tenants and what they find important for their new lease contracts. And they found that over 50% of the tenants is willing to pay a premium of 10% on their rent if they are provided with a tech-enabled office that is focused on optimizing human capital, or enabling them as an employer to provide a modern workplace and help them in the war on talent and help their people basically to be effective. But on the other side, we also know, of course, that we have quite a sustainability challenge to deal with, where the real estate industry across the board is accountable for 30 to 40% of the global emissions. And this is also one of the things that with bGrid we seek to achieve is energy reduction and increased sustainability for both new, renovated and existing buildings. So, but we believe that smart building can make a difference there. But at the same time, when we do this, when we talk about smart building, we also should realize that, just adding more technology to the building is only going to create what we call an internet of too many things, where people no longer understand how to use the technology, where it becomes only more expensive to build, more expensive to adapt and change over its life cycle. So we want to create what we call actually an integration of things. And when we do this, we want to deliver value to all stakeholders in the supply chain. Now, obviously, the biggest value is with the occupier of the space, but we want to deliver value to every stakeholder, because when we do this, we can actually, for example, save energy. If we only save energy but do not make life easier or more comfortable or healthier for the occupier, it will not work as well. And the same if we deliver a solution to a contractor that will make his life easier, it is also more likely of getting properly installed. Now, if we do this, the vision that we have is that we can deliver a building not filled with gadgets, but a building that actively supports the process within. So that's very close and relevant to the people in the building, working with the building, owning the building, and that the building really, in that sense, becomes your personal assistant, that it helps you with whatever reason you have to go to the building. If it is to have a meeting or to do focus work or to have, a healthy and energetic work environment, that it helps you with those kind of things. Now, the big question then becomes, how do I do this in a future-proof way? Now, we so far have mostly done offices, but we also do hospitals and universities. And typically the problem is that you do not really know yet which people or which organization, which tenants will use the building. And if you do know them, they don't know what they want. And if they know what they want, you will know for sure that it will change during the design, during the construction, and of course also during the utilization period. Now, to battle this, what we want to do is have a building that is more like a Tesla. So real estate traditionally is something you build, and also on a software level, it largely is what you have at delivery is what you have for the next 10, 15 years, where we want the building to automatically, evolve and get updates and get new features and, also in that sense, surprise its owners and users. But we also want it to be more like a smartphone, where, when you buy your phone, you don't need to say, hey, I'm going to use these and these apps, so I need this type of phone or with this kind of features. No, you buy good hardware, you get an operating system, and even 5 years after you bought it, although maybe we replace it a little bit quicker, but even 5 years after you bought it, you can still add new applications. And this flexibility and this automatic updates of software and bringing new features, that is what we need to build in order to get this building as your personal assistant. Now, what do we do then in detail as bGrid? What we do is we provide a grid of devices throughout the building, bGrid nodes, and the bGrid nodes all have the same functionality. So every node is a multi-sensor, so it measures everything, and everything that it measures is on every node except the CO2 and VOC, which is the only optional feature on a node because of the hardware cost of that sensor module. But it measures temperature. It measures actually the radiant temperature from the ceiling behind me in this image as well. So the radiant temperature, it measures from the ceiling, and it's a very accurate way of measuring comfort. We have got now very good experience with that. It's actually better even than a thermostat. But we also measure light intensity. We measure sound intensity, which allows us to see where it's quiet, whether are people talking, whether it's HVAC noise. We measure humidity, we measure movement and air quality. But every node is also a light and comfort management device. So every node is your light management system, basically. And the system also allows us to control the ventilation, heating, cooling, blinds, etc. in the room. And every node is an indoor positioning device. So it's a fully managed iBeacon, and it's an asset tracking system of third-party devices. So you don't need to buy our tags to track something. Now you can just buy a third-party tag for €1 or a couple of euros, and and then we will position it for you, and all this information will come available on our API, the application programming interface. And this is actually our core business. So it's our core business to build this infrastructure, to integrate with the lights, to integrate with the BMS, and then unlock it all for the purpose of connecting it to the applications of third parties. So we do not build those applications, that's all partner technology. And they are focused sometimes on the occupier, sometimes on the owner, sometimes it's activity-based working, sometimes it's just, providing a more healthy, personally controllable comfort. And it's our business to unlock our data to these third parties. And this means that everything that you can do with the bGrid system, you can do through our API. And what you can do through our API, we have made very easy for these companies to work with. And that makes it, for them, attractive to work with our technology. And the key thing here that we also deliver is that when we deliver this technology to a building, it is not for us necessary to know which applications a client will use, which use cases it wants, which functionalities, and of course also not which application it actually installs. So that decision can be made later, it can change during the design, it can change during the utilization phase. What we also deliver is an interface for the operator to see our system operate, so the real-time data to control things. And this also is used by the contractor actually during commissioning. We deliver business insights, so this is more historic, that you can easily see, hey, how is meeting room utilization? What is the average climate in a meeting room, or those kind of things. And we have internal machine learning or AI to look at our data and generate new data types. So for example, now, and I will share a little bit more about that later, but recently we've launched that we can now see workplace occupation utilization in real time from our standard devices. So no camera needed, just from our standard devices, we can measure workplace utilization in real time. Now, we already have more than 20 different companies using our data. There are of all sorts, but typically, of course, in the real estate domain, some big and large companies like CBRE or Spacewell or Vodafone, but also more startup companies like Mapic or OfficeApp or Pointer, all kinds of different companies. And we actually provide a application overview also to our clients of the applications that we work with, at least, to help them see, okay, which application provides which functionality. If we look at the more technical side of what we do, you have the bGrid nodes. Now, the bGrid nodes need power, obviously, but they communicate wirelessly. So they don't have any dedicated cabling going to it, communication cabling. They take power typically from the same source as the light fixture. Then they communicate wirelessly to our gateways, and the gateways sit on an IP backbone, and they communicate to our backend, which is partly on site and is also in the cloud. But this means that our system will function fully independent from the internet. So if we disconnect the internet, everything will just keep on running. But of course, the API in the cloud is not available. Now we connect our nodes wired with a 2-core DALI cable to light fixtures, so we can control any brand of fixtures as long as they have DALI, or we put a DALI relay in between. And we connect to the BMS through BACnet over IP on the same IP cable that was one cable going to our gateway. And there we share all our sensor data, and we also share any alterations to the set points of the climate or the blinds. And then third-party applications, they will connect to our API to, for example, read out sensor data, read out availability of meeting rooms, or control light and climate. And then on your own personal device, it will scan for the iBeacon signals to be positioned. But very important in this structure is that our database doesn't at any time have any kind of personal data. So the smartphone does not exist in our system, and our nodes do not see the smartphone in the same way as a GPS satellite also doesn't see your phone or the navigation system of your car. What we also have is instant quality assurance during installation. We made this because we saw that there were actually, the standard quality during construction was sometimes far from perfect. So we have changed our software to allow the people that mount our system to instantly see if they've done it right with the colors of our nodes. And we've got very good feedback on that from the contractors, because they love it, because every rework, every time you have to go back to go fix something is a waste of time and is negative energy. Now with our system, we also have BREEAM credits, you have specific bGrid credits, multi-sensor credits, but of course also the broader categories. We also are utilizing our system helps in well certification. I'm just going quickly through these, just think it's good for you to be aware of that this is the case. You can read through it in the slides later on that we can share if you want. What we achieve with this is by providing this multi-sensor, the light and comfort management in an open and integrated way, we actually reduce complexity. And this is very valuable because it eases the whole data structure and integrations, but it also reduces costs, because at the end, what all of this costs is very important. Now, what we've seen is that it reduces costs so far. So our nodes, if you install them, you no longer need thermostats, you no longer need presence sensors or light switches, or your whole light management system for that is gone. The reduction of that is so much that if you take a standard building design, any project that you're working on, and you apply our technology to, basically fulfill the function of your thermostats, presence sensors, etc., then there is no need for any additional investments. There are additional recurring costs, so yeah, but we do have a support fee, obviously, but the cost of our system, including installation and cabling, is in the same order of magnitude as these traditional systems that are then obsolete. Then if we look to the value that we deliver, what we see is that for the owner, they find it really interesting that they can have a smart building proposition to the market without the need for additional investment, but with the benefits also from, for example, additional revenue streams. Operators really like our solution because they can use our tools, they can use third-party tools, they can use their own analytics, and it's very easy then to see on a comfort level, for example, where things are going wrong or where they can save on energy. And yeah, as an occupier, it gives actually a whole box of opportunities to battle on the war on talent, or to help people be healthy and focus and do their work. And even contractors are typically happy with us because it's quite simple technology that reduces mostly also the on-site labor. So if to sum this up, you have our infrastructure, the IoT, the third-party apps. We deliver really that building as your personal assistant, because every tenant in a multi-tenant, even every tenant different apps, everybody can select what they need, and you can do this as you go while you use it. So we have also solved this problem of how do you do this future-proof. Now, that's this. Let me now share a little bit on what we actually do with this data. And I also think it's important to stress here that everything that we do is also available on all existing sites that we have already installed 2 or 3 years ago. So we now have this structure that I explained to you, and we have a cloud system that to the back of that, basically, that takes the data from the database on site, puts it in a data lake, and it allows us to unlock this historically and in real time to the business insights and operator insights, and that's also where the third-party applications connect. But we also have here the ability to, on our data lake, that is for multiple sites, is one lake, that we can run analytics and machine learning on it to see, hey, what else can we learn from the data that we can then feed back into these APIs for third-party applications. Now, the interesting thing here is that we found recently, and this is especially also valuable given the whole COVID situation, is that we can generate with these new data types and insights, and specifically we can now do people counting. So we can accurately see the workplace utilization or the amount of people in a meeting room with our technology, with our existing technology also. So also in this mindset of future proof, or this building as a Tesla, people bought bGrid without people counting. And as part of the service and subscription that we provide, they now all of a sudden have a building where for every meeting room they know how many people there were in the meeting or how many workplaces they were used at a certain time. This we have live. We can also do this, to forecast occupancy, so that you know, hey, how busy is it going to be at this time? Or if I plan this meeting, is the building very busy or is the restaurant very busy? You can do same things for health and comfort, you can imagine. But we can also do this more specific on client request or project request. Hey, we would want to know this, or we have this specific question. Yeah, we see that from the broadness of the data that we have, we can do a lot of things. Now, going a bit more detail in this workplace occupancy, how did we do this? So what you see here is a very simple drawing of a typical setup that we used to have. We would have our infrastructure in the ceiling that does basically everything that I just explained. But then clients would ask us, hey, can we also have devices on desk level to measure at each and every individual desk if someone is set present there. Now we have hundreds and hundreds of these desk sensors in our buildings underneath the ceiling-based sensors. So we use those two data sets to create with machine learning an algorithm that then allows us to calculate from this data only how many people there were and how many people there are utilizing desks. And that allows us now to do actually the exact same thing, to measure with our infrastructure how many desks are occupied in real time without desk sensors. So you can imagine that this is very valuable going forward. It's valuable to our existing clients that then did not buy desk sensors. If they did buy desk sensors, yeah, then maybe this is not such a good story. But for all the others, it's a very good story. Yeah, and this is something that you can do with this kind of data in this kind of infrastructure, where we can update everything in this way. What we also have, and this is also new, is specific for the COVID situation. We developed a solution that we call bCOS, the bGrid COVID Office Safety Solution, and it looks at two aspects. So it looks at the ability that people have in a specific area in the building to adhere to physical distancing rules. And it looks at the air quality and if that provides safety when we adhere to the physical distancing. You can imagine if you're in a meeting room and we are all keeping 2 meters distance, but ventilation is insufficient, then yeah, the probability of us breathing in each other's pathogens or contaminated air particles is of course higher. And what we do is we create insight here in 3 layers. So we have the LEDs in our nodes that we also use during commissioning, and we can switch them in real time, and we can use them to communicate to people in an area or in a room, like in this room. We now have them on red, and then people are aware of, hey, there's something off in this room. And obviously if it's good, it's green, and then we have orange. And the advantage here is that we can do this obviously without relying on the smartphone that people carry. They don't need to look on their phone. They don't need to look on a web page to see this. And then we have a web interface that organizations can use for narrowcasting or an intranet or on your laptop or whatever, where you more have like an overview of the floor. I'll show that in a second. And then we have part of our business insights domain. We have daily reporting more targeted towards facility managers and employers. Now, so this is how this would look. So you have the nodes in the ceiling. They can turn from green to orange to red to indicate the status of the space. We have these kind of very simple kiosk screens. Now, typically this would be provided by a partner application, but given the situation, clients asked us, but then we have to wait for the partner to integrate this or to provide this. So we said, okay, this is rather easy to do, so we just provide this. It's an extension of our facility management or operator insights interface. The Power BI reporting will show like this, so it shows the different rooms and then how many percentage of the work hours of that day a certain room was under poor conditions. And it will also show the follow-up, because we can measure if people can actually leave the area. So it will show how many people stayed in the area for how long after it signaled that it was poor. So you see something of the behavior. Now, how do we do this? Well, it's actually maybe very logical. So we structure it throughout our system. So we have the LEDs on our nodes, we have the real time in the my bGrid cloud, and then the historic insights in the Power BI. And then we have actually the status of all these areas also in our API, such that, say, if you use CBRE host to find a meeting room, that you can also filter not just on is the meeting room available, but also is the meeting room air quality still safe. What we measure to do this, we use the workplace utilization measurement that I just explained, that we newly developed, because that obviously is an indication of, okay, am I able to keep this physical distance? And we can calibrate that even for different area types. So because you can imagine that it's different for workplaces than a restaurant or a hallway. And then we have 3 threshold levels. So we say, okay, if there is enough space available so people can still go to that workplace area and safely find the desk, then it's good. If it's almost full or becoming full, then it becomes moderate, it turns to orange. And when it's full or too crowded even, then it gets to red. And these conditions are visible throughout these 3 levels. And we do the same for the air quality. So we measure the CO2, and the CO2, of course, is a direct correlation with, how much exhaust air there is from humans, and that correlates to the airborne particles that can contaminate you with COVID. And then, what we basically do is we say that good is the conditions up to and including, say, the control envelope of the HVAC system. If it just surpasses that bandwidth, it will turn into moderate, and then when it really shoots through like 900 ppm, it will turn poor. And I can tell you that you'll be surprised how quickly that happens even in modern high-end offices. And again, these are visible throughout the 3 layers. And then finally, we do the same with the humidity. So we look at humidity and we measure that throughout the building, but it is actually very homogeneous throughout the building. So we only report on the daily report to the facility manager, because it's either the whole building is good or the whole building is poor. So we do not want to communicate that with the local LEDs. Then one other thing, the operator insights. So this is actually really interesting, because what it allows is it provides a online interface for everyone in the process, from, say, our own commissioning engineers, the contractor, the supervisor on site, the consultant, to check also during construction where we are with our system. So the first screen here would see you for a specific zone, the conditions. It would also allow you to control stuff to check if that works. But we can also see, for example, the conditions of our signal strengths. So here you see the gateways, the nodes, and if they're green, they're good. If they're orange, they are still working, but it's getting more tricky. And obviously red is not good. But we can also see, for example, the BACnet configuration. So that's actually very interesting, because now we can see here that I have 3 nodes. They're connected under one BACnet, so that could be like 101.09. And then if you hover over it, you can see which node reports which values to the BACnet value. But this also allows us actually even to change the clustering of control loops without having to change anything in the BMS. Now we can do the same for light. We can you see the temperature, the heat maps. We can see the occupancy, the movement intensity, sound, etc. Now we can do obviously the same thing, but then historically. So now what we see here with the business insights, if you have the floor plans, you see, for a certain time frame, the utilization of each room. So you can see, for example, that this meeting room only gets utilized for 28.5% of the time, where this one is actually 60% and this one is 40%, where they're all more or less the same room. So it gives our clients insight in, hey, which meeting rooms are really popular. These meeting rooms in this specific project actually do not all have the same furniture, so sometimes it's because the furniture is not appreciated as much. This people find really interesting. What they also find really interesting is I'll go a little bit quicker through this, but it's actually this last part here, the bottom left, is the meeting room capacity utilization. So it's one of the questions we get a lot is, okay, I have meeting rooms of 10 people, 15 people, but are they actually used? Do we need them that large, or do we need more smaller ones or more concentration cubicles? So we can, for every meeting room, we can indicate how the capacity is utilized when the meeting room is utilized. And we can then make different categories of that, and then you can see, hey, we can reduce the larger meeting rooms, so we should cut some of them in half. Let us move to the Microsoft case. This is the final part of the presentation, so you don't need to bear with me for 10 more minutes. At the Microsoft case is actually something very interesting that we did there. We first implemented our system in the live office. So we just installed it during normal office hours before they started the whole renovation process. This allowed the organization to get utilized to get used to the smart building functions, but it also provided data that then was used to update their real estate strategy and also the need. So what do we really need in terms of the amount of meeting rooms, the size, etc., etc. And now they are using that to keep it developing, to keep the building changing. And actually now during the COVID lockdown, they already, after 1.5 years, decided to change some of the furniture and change some of the setup in the building. Now their general manager had also this vision that actually also made us win the project, is that they said, yeah, we really want to use data to base to use that as a basis for how we use the building, but they also wanted that for their war on talent, and they reduced the area from 12,000 to 8,000 square meters, but at the same time made it a much more modern workplace for their employees. Now, in this building, we have quite a few apps installed. So we've got the Mapping app, we've got the building operating system from CGI, we've got voice control. We connect obviously with the BMS and the lights, even though there were pre-existing systems. This you've seen, so this is from this building. We provide this to them on a monthly basis, and they can all change it just themselves. So this is open source technology from Microsoft themselves. They have this facility management tool, which really helps them to quickly solve issues, to see if there is a climate problem, if it's just for that room, or if it's for a whole wing, or if it's because of sunlight. But they also use the asset tracking. So they use the asset tracking, for example, to track their mobile service hubs to see where they are. But they can also see, the cleaning cards, and if the cleaning people moved through the building throughout it, or maybe only did a smaller part than what they get paid for. This is something we have under construction together with a building automation supplier called Priva. And they then actually use the forecasting power of our data to proactively, on the area level, change the clock programs of the BMS, as such to avoid basically that you heat a meeting room at 7 a.m. where you already know that nobody ever gets there before 10 in the morning. And that actually saves a considerable amount of energy. We have the Mapping app, which they provide a nice 3D interface where you can see in real time the status of each room, also the temperature, but you can also easily search for a meeting room, a person, a workplace, and then navigate to it. And they have the voice-based interaction. And the advantage actually with voice, to be honest, I was very hesitant for this at the first time, but the advantage here is that when it comes to software coding, these bots are much easier to code. So if you have a client that, I don't know, wants people to be able to order lunch from their specific caterer that they have at the ground floor and that it gets ordered, then doing that through voice is much easier than through an app on your phone or a web-based interface. This is a bit of a broader outlook of our references. We're drawing to the end of me talking, so I hope you've all posted lots of questions. Basically, what the only thing here that I want to say is that we have lots of different references. Of course, it's always the high-end ones like Microsoft or Vodafone as the fancy ones to talk about, but we also work for a lot of technology companies like Engie and Hager and Goldbeck. They're all Goldbeck's also a contractor like Engie, and this is a contractor, the top one, obviously not Coca-Cola, but also for just town hall offices here in the Netherlands like Eindhoven and Alkmaar. Really all kinds of different cultures, different scales of buildings, research, education, hospitals now as well. So there are all kinds of real estate that we work for. And I think it's also important to mention that as a company, we're really targeted on long-term relationships. So with Schiphol, for example, we work now for 4 years for them. We help them win Microsoft as a tenant. We're now building our 4th and 5th building with them. So they keep coming back to us. So we really, stand our ground and deliver what we say we do. This is the latest building that we delivered with them for Heineken. We also now work for Flughafen Zurich. They resell our tech to their tenants even now. We do their own headquarters, but also other tenants. Vodafone Ziggo. Again, here this is it had a big decrease in area per square meter per employee. But we also do buildings like this one that is well certified, LEED certified. This is a different app, Seabury Host, different BMS companies. We've got 8 different brands live now, BMS brands. Projects in the US with Edge Technologies in the Netherlands, as I mentioned in the beginning. Italy, really high-end real estate there as well. But also here focused a lot on the community of multi-tenant buildings. This is why they use Office App, one in France. Anyway, plenty of references. So just to wrap up, what it is that we do: we control things, we locate everything, or indoor positioning. We provide a very extensive multi-sensor. We integrate with conventional building technology like BMS and lights. And when we open it up to third-party applications such that everyone can choose and adapt to their own needs, the building, basically. And in that way, we make it very future-proof. Thank you. Mohammed.
Yes, thank you everybody to join us. It's very informative presentation. There is some question. One of them is about the data security. There is a 2-3 question I have here about the data security. Some question about the system is open protocol or not. And some of them is about integrated this system with other system, the same of the CCTV or access control, or in the case of the emergency, evacuate the building.
Yeah. Okay, so let me try and handle the security questions and the protocol questions first. So security, I think is really important. Huh? So first of all, our system. Let me go back a little bit in the slides. So here on our API, we get what we call pen tested. We've been pen tested by the government here in the Netherlands, by Schiphol Airport, and that means basically that they hire hackers to try and hack our system from outside the building. That we actually passed very well. They never found any major items, and all the items that they found we fixed. They also tried to hack our system by being in the building and taking, for example, a gateway and trying to modify the software of it. Yeah, that is possible, but let's say the possibilities to do that, let's say our clients, Schiphol, the government, they all find that very unlikely, because you have to actually unmount it, take it home, take it apart, write new firmware, and then being able to install it again above the ceiling. So yeah, that was not And we see it, so we see it immediately if someone disconnects anything, and we monitor all infrastructure 24/7. But overall, I think what is also very important is that our infrastructure doesn't hold any privacy data. I cannot emphasize that enough, because it is relevant for the security question, but it's also relevant for what you can do with the data. The moment you have privacy data in your database, you're bound by the GDPR and other things. Actually, that is in the EU, so maybe in the UK it's a little bit different. I don't know that exactly, but anyway, because there's no privacy data in our database, it also is a lot easier to, go for new purposes, to, for example, use it now for acoustic comfort or those kind of things. And then I get to the protocols. So we use open protocols for communities that are standard in the market, like bGrid and DALI. And then our API. An API, we use what they call RESTful and JSON, which are standard languages. And it's fully documented and in that sense open. Unfortunately, there is not yet a standard for that. So we do use the ontology from the Microsoft Digital Twin for our data structure. And that for sure is going to help in standardizing things. But yeah, things like Haystack, for example, are not extensive enough for our technology. And most of those standards actually are not. They're typically only sensor based and not looking at the control of things or how do you position things. So let me.
Thank you. And is a two question more coming is about what is the biggest roadblock to adopting the smart building? Is a very open question, but you can answer that. And also about the certificate of the smart building certificate. To is a question.
Yeah, maybe the person that asked that question can explain a little bit what he means with smart building certificate, because the only thing I know is something that was started, I think, like 3 months ago, but is really not yet defined. But if that's what he refers to, I can answer the question. But if he means something else, then please explain. But the so the first part, the biggest roadblock, we find is that people do not yet believe that smart building is valuable. So if you look in our internal commercial process, I think it's like 70 or 75% of all the times we lose a project is because we lose it to no one. So there is no smart building. There will be no smart building technology. And the other biggest roadblock is that, people in real estate in general, and I think people in general, this is new, this is different. And this is less and less for us a roadblock, but I think to date it is still a big roadblock. People like to do what they've always done. So this is new. If you are very busy with a project, this is new technology. So you will have to look into it to make sure you understand it properly, that your project gets designed properly. That is a roadblock for us. And we actually offer really also support for that in engineering, in consultancy, documentation, trainings, everything. And actually we even employ some people for that purpose that used to work with engineering consultants. Those are the two biggest things, I think.
Is one more question is coming about your marketing or route. Is you directly employed by the client or end user, or you're employed by somebody else?
Yes, good question. So when we started, we sold directly to building owners, investors, and project developers. Well, that, to be honest, can be fun, but it is not very effective. So because it means this all takes us a lot of time. So our objective is to sell through engineering consultants and integrators, basically. That we see happening more and more. So we now have, I would say, already something like 50 to 60% of our projects are through engineering consultants, where we never speak to the client. We just support the engineering consultants. And yeah, only I think 5 or 10% is where the contractor or the integrator sells our technology.
Okay, I think for the last question, we can close this part, is about integrating with other systems. For example, the CCTV or the lift or access control. Your systems can connect it to other systems. You mentioned about the BMS, but about other specific systems.
Yeah, also a good question. So at the moment, we do not yet do that, but this is for sure something that is on our roadmap and in our vision to connect to other building technology that is inside. Maybe it is also good to explain what we do not want to do. So we do not want to, for example, take in all the BMS data, like the control data from the air handling units, those kind of things. Yeah, we don't think that we're better in that or better positioned to do that than others. But yeah, when it comes to CCTV and security systems, yeah, we typically have a very fast, very dense sensing system for detecting movement. So yeah, obviously that's valuable data for security systems. So this is actually on our to-do list, but to be honest, as a technology company, your to-do list can be a little bit long. But yeah, that we want to do. I also saw another question which maybe is useful to answer in this domain. For the power, so we actually our hardware allows for the power to be supplied by DALI drivers that are, yeah, Signify calls it sensor ready, and Trilux calls it Excel, I believe. So there are different names for it, but it's a specific part of the DALI protocol that allows to power our node. Our nodes are normally powered, if not that way, by 230 volts, and our gateways are power over Ethernet. There was also a question I saw coming by. Yeah.
Okay, in this case, thank you very much, Walter, for the nice presentation, and sorry for everybody for the sorry about the last week, the technical issue we had, but this week we can do that. Thank you everybody to coming and spend time, and I have to thank the representative of the home country Northwest for the CIBSE region. I hope we can have all of you guys in the next presentation and next time. And that is the last word. If you want, Walter, if you want to add anything, I just pass to you.
Well, thank you all for your time. I'm very aware that it's evening for you, so thank you for taking part in this. And if you have any other questions, or if we forgot to answer your question, feel free to connect us through the info@bgrid.com or wouter.kok@bgrid.com. We're more than happy to let you know. Also, if you want to have the slides, I don't know, Mohammed, is there an easy way to share the slides, or is that best done through private messages?
We can send by the CIBSE account, or we can send by Eventbrite to the list of the people they have. No problem.
Okay. Good. All right, then we'll share the slides as well.
Okay. Thank you very much for everybody. Thanks, Walter, and everybody.
Thank you.